Hello, we are the Salon Sleuths. My name is Melissa,
And my name is Leslie.
and we are two women from the Pacific Northwest. We are both curious about paranormals, spirit guides, ghosts, past lives.
We are suspicious about true crime, disappearances, and strange phenomenons. We are open to learning about the supernatural and all things we don't understand.
Together, we're opinionated with a splash of smartass. Join us to learn. And stay curious, stay suspicious, and stay open.
Follow Salon Sleuths on all major podcast platforms.
Hi,
Hello,
Melissa.
Leslie. How are
Oh, I'm
you?
doing good, really good. Yeah.
You're fully clothed today.
Well, at 10 this morning, I was not. No, I was. It's cold today.
I know. I was a
Mhm.
little sad that I'd brought this thin jacket out with me when I was running errands because I was like, it's a little chilly. I could have had a little more. Do you want to go? Okay, because I
I want to
have a
hear
couple
it.
other updates. Maybe we'll do the
Okay.
updates afterwards. Okay. So the
Wait,
death
updates
of
about what?
Elisa.
Now you got me intrigued.
Now you're interested. All right, all right, all right. Here it is. Okay. Do you remember the conversation we had with Jacob, or I had with Jacob, my son, about UFOs?
No. Wait, did I? I don't remember.
That's because you only remember the sex penis discussion, probably.
Probably.
He's all
Although I
into
love aliens,
UFOs,
so.
right? He's into UFOs, and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, and
But
I
he
said,
doesn't
how
believe
can
in
you believe in
ghosts.
UFOs? Yeah,
Yeah.
I go, how can you believe in UFOs and not believe in spirit guides and all this kind of stuff? Well, so I don't know if you remember, and I don't know how much of this we kept in or cut out, but he went off on this little tangent about these UFO sightings that had been declassified by the government. And he was showing them to me and he's saying, well, they're going this fast and they're doing this and blah, 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 blah. And these are real naval pilots. And I was kind of like, well, how do I know they're going that fast? Like, I can't read anything on that screen. I don't know what any of that means. How do I know that's going that fast? Whatever. That was on 60 Minutes this Sunday.
Oh, I'll have to go
Oh,
back and look. Well,
yes.
according to Ella, they're releasing all the information about the government has ever collected about UFOs on June 1st. Did you hear that?
Well, I think this was last June.
Oh, it was.
Or maybe
Okay.
it was last August. I don't remember. So that was this last year they released
Okay.
several of them and they are redacted, but yes, this was they don't call them UFOs, they call them unidentified. Darn it, I didn't write that part down. They have a different name than UFO, but it's basically
Okay. Yeah.
unidentified. And they talk about them not having any visible fuel, like where you see how they're being propelled, no propellers. They go at extremely high rates. They can drop and they can raise. They had four pilots. So there was actually two pilots and two co-pilots, and they had the two pilots on, but the two co-pilots also agree that this had happened. They were told to go out and check out this thing that was out in the sky out off of San Diego. So they went out there and this thing was acting weird. They're like, what the fuck? And so, anyways, one of the pilots gets really close to it and he starts to drop and this thing starts to come up. They go face to face and it disappeared. And he's like, you know what? I can't tell you what happened. Like, I try to write this in my brain, and thank God there were other people there with me because I honestly wouldn't talk about it because no one would believe me. Like, where did it go? How did it just disappear? So it's interesting to me. There's some hypothesizing. You should watch the show, but there's some hypothesizing like, okay, well, what if it is foreign countries that have technology that we know nothing about? They're so far advanced from us, we know nothing about it. Or is it out of this world? Like we just don't know. So they're not saying, it's aliens, but they're not saying it's not. They're saying we don't know what it is. And it's a little scary that we don't know what it is. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I thought that was really interesting.
That's exciting.
Um, and here's the other one. Did you watch over COVID the Tiger King?
Yes, I did. Like I
Okay.
think everybody did, right?
Okay. Yes, everybody did. And you know that Carol Baskin owns Joe Exotic's park, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you know that Jeff Lowe, I think it was his name, he got a bunch of his cats, Joe Exotic's cats, right?
I'm trying to remember
Remember that
who he
guy?
was.
He was the guy at the end who tried to take the
Oh yeah,
park.
the rich guy that had all the girls. Yeah.
Yes. Well, the feds just seized 69 cats from his tiger park because he says they were not being taken care of. They were not getting the vet help that they needed. They were not getting fed adequately. They were not in appropriate cages. They were like basically going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in these small cells and not getting the stimulation they need. Did you hear that?
I did not. That's really sad.
Maybe you shouldn't be breeding these animals. You can't afford them. Don't breed more of them, especially when they eat this much. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So there was some mental illness in that too.
Yeah. Well, that Baskin lady, what's going on with her?
I don't know. I really don't know. She's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs a little bit, I think. I don't know. I don't exactly know, but definitely that whole Joe Exotic, I was like, there's a little mental illness there. There's some stuff going on. So I guess today is mental illness day, awareness
You know
day.
what else it is? It is also National Strawberry and Cream Day. Strawberries and Cream Day.
I love strawberries and cream. Oh, that sounds good. Is it shortcake or,
No, it just says National Strawberries and Cream Day. And tomorrow's World Fiddle Day.
Fiddle. Okay. Get your fiddle on.
Get my fiddle on.
Well, guess what today's episode is about?
Well, I know what it's about, but I do want to say one more thing, okay?
Okay.
I really, really think we should revisit the Floyd Jean Bennett case. Because that's local.
Is that?
She's the one in Beaverton.
The house that we want to go.
She's in the backyard. She has to be in the backyard. So what if we did, let's try to get like some fundraisers. Let's get some people to join our Patreon.
Okay.
And every cent that goes to that, we will get ground penetrating radar.
Okay.
We won't dig in her backyard.
That cost?
I don't know. I'm going to look it up, but I just want to put it out there that this lady can be found. She has to be in that backyard. Her husband was convicted of other crimes, and he also chopped up people and put them in the backyard.
Yes. I thought about that case.
I know, and she's just been popping up in my head for probably the last week and a half. And so I really think I went back, I got the address again. I'm going to write a letter.
Okay.
And I'm just going to say, I don't know if you know the history of your house, but this is what happened. If we pay for ground penetrating radar, would you let us come back there? We're not going to dig anything. I just want to know if there's anomalies. Is that the right word?
Yes.
In the ground. And then we can revisit if there is. But I really think if we just fundraise and get somebody to go out there and just look, let's do that.
And let me just point out, we don't make money doing this podcast. So every cent that our whole $2, she sends me a screenshot. She's like, oh, we made $2.
How do you want your $3.24 this month, Melissa?
Which hasn't even covered our equipment. So, it's not like
I think like if people want to support us, that's great and all, but I think going forward until we have enough money raised to do the ground penetrating radar, I think if anybody wants to contribute to that, you can know exactly where that money is going. I'll be very honest with you. I'll show you everything, but I think we really need to do that. I think she should be found.
Yeah.
She's totally been like in my head. So let's
do dogs help at all? Can we get dogs?
That was the other thing. I was all online today trying to do how do I get a tracking dog? Yeah. And how do I train my dog to do it? And a lot of it is the agility stuff. He's still too young. He's only 6.5 months, and they really don't recommend any agility stuff until around 12 months. But then I'm like, okay, but he could be able to learn to start tracking. Yeah. So now I'm trying to I've been Googling all day today, local places that I want to do it in groups because it's so expensive to do one-on-one. Yeah. And just because I really need to get some of the basics down for him first. Right. And then once he's got those really well, then I'm going in to do some tracking stuff. And maybe by the time we have enough money raised to get this backyard thing going on, he can also smell. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see. It's been so long It's been so long. Like 70s?
Yes.
This happened in the
Yeah.
70s, late 80s or early
Yeah.
80s,
It was a long time ago.
like 79 or something. I know she's in that backyard. She has to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. I
So,
agree. Okay. Well, I love that, and I think we should do it. And I'm all about that. And I hope that people are want to see that as well, see closure for the family. That would be really I don't want to say fun because that's the wrong word, but good
she
closure.
just needs to be found.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
deserves to be put into like an actual like cemetery or cremated, whatever. Like everybody deserves to know what happened to her.
Exactly.
And gosh, what was I just gonna say? That's already gone. Never mind.
Gone.
It's
Gone.
gone. Sorry.
Well, today we are going to discuss the death of Elisa Lamb. And you have up on your background for those YouTubers, Hotel Cecil. Um, and you actually brought this one to my attention. I had never heard of this case until you actually brought it to my attention. And another friend of mine said, "Oh yeah, that was weird. She acts so weird." I was like, "What are we talking about?"
Yeah.
So here's the story. On February 19th of 2013, the body of Elisa Lamb was found in the rooftop water tank of the Cecil Hotel in downtown LA. Now, in this area of downtown LA, the Hotel Cecil has a long, long history. But let's just say for right now, I'll give you a little bit of the history later. It was in Skid Row. And it had been over the years, I think it was the 20s or 1920s that it was built. Okay. And it had been split, not down the middle, but by floor into two different hotels.
Recently, when they redid
well, yes, when they redid
Yes.
it. The Hotel Cecil was like the first two floors, and that was low rent, weekly rates, monthly rates for low income people.
Well, when they originally this company bought it, they wanted to redo the whole
The whole
thing
thing.
to like revive it. In back in the 20s or 30s, whenever it was actually built, they built it for $1 million, which is roughly 15.1 now.
Mhm.
And it was like the booming place. Everybody, all like businessmen and the elitists went there. And then
And it's
it is this,
gorgeous. The
but it is
lobby
also
is
right
gorgeous.
next to, Skid Row, which is that what do you even call it? 10,000 homeless people.
Yeah.
It is literally next door.
Yeah.
So when they went to revive it and this company bought it, they had to keep certain floors under that same.
I think it was the Holiday Inn that bought it, and basically the city came back and said, no, you can't kick
It's like
all
a
these people
historic
out.
thing.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's under like it's part of the Skid Row program, and so they
Yes.
weren't able to do the whole thing. Sorry,
Yes.
you can keep going.
No, that's fine. So basically, I just wanted to explain to people. So now they had the Hotel Cecil entrance, the historic entrance, that if you were living in the Hotel Cecil, the first two floors, you would go in that entrance. On the back side, they did the hotel, and it was called Stay on Main for Stay on Main Street. And that they converted into kind of a low end Holiday Inn. It was very nice, or clean, I should say, not nice, but it was clean. It was a little bit more tailored for the young traveler. They had hostel type rooms in there, so you could share a room. You could be, and that will come into play here, or you could be in a small single room. And Elisa was Cantonese, and she was from Canada, and she was in a very, what I would say, tight knit family. She lived with her family, and she kind of had been spiraling and changing and trying to grow and trying to like branch away from her family. And she was big on social media. So that's why we kind of know a lot about what was going on in her mind and what was going on in her life at the time. But she decided that she was going to travel to LA. She was very excited about it. She was like, this is going to be my big, independent travel. So by herself, she left her parents' home in Canada and she traveled down to LA. And she checked into Stay on Main. Now, there are many reasons why the disappearance and the discovery of her body was so perplexing and became a huge topic for both online sleuths, documentaries, later a lawsuit by her parents. But it really goes down to several different things. The biggest thing was the hotel itself kind of housing these two sets. And when I kind of mentioned the two sets, but I didn't mention that the elevator, there was only one elevator. So if you came in to stay on Main Side, you had to use the same elevator as the Hotel Cecil. So if you got in that elevator and you could be next to a homeless guy who's high on whatever PCP or somebody coming in to buy drugs, right? The first two floors, you could get off on the first two floors. They could get off on the third through fifth floor, right? Everybody could use that elevator, and the elevator was not controlled in any manner. Like, there was no control between floors once you got in there. So that also played part in this, I think.
And I don't know, do you think the people on the stay at Main knew that it was connected? No. Yeah. I think because they said as soon as you checked in, it was like you went back in time the minute you got in that elevator, and it was like you're in a different hotel.
It was dirty and yeah, it was not like the clean sort of businessy, modern kind of look. And Elisa had posted on her social media her struggles with mental illness, depression. She had been diagnosed with both bipolar and depression, and she was taking some medications for that. And another reason for all of this, really, like, I guess, this outcry by the public, like, what the heck happened, was that she had some really odd behavior when she was at the hotel. Firstly, they moved her into a room with two other girls. So she was clearly in a group room for a better rate. And after a couple days, the other roommates were like, dude, she's weird. She's doing some weird stuff. Like, she's not going to sleep at a normal time. Like, can you do something? And so
she was leaving Post-it notes everywhere on their stuff.
Yeah. And so they moved her out of that room into her own room. And so then she was later just went missing, right? So her parents were like, where is she? You know, she should have called. And everyone knew that, like, the next day, that the last day that she'd been found, which had been seen, which was January 31st, they knew she was going to go get a book that she was really looking forward to at a special bookstore. So everybody kind of knew she was doing that. So she had something to look forward to. Now, what happens after they find her body, and I'll tell you about that, but what happens after that is they also find video of her on her last day that she was ever seen in this elevator, in this said elevator. And it was really weird because and you've seen the video, right? She's in the elevator, and at this time, this is February 15th when the LAPD actually released the video of her. It's 2.5 minutes of footage of her, but she gets in and she looks kind of like a little frantic. Like, people are like, oh, she looked like she was running from something, but she ends up going to the buttons and hitting all of the buttons to all of the floors. And which is unusual. If you're running from somebody, why would you hit all the buttons, right? And then she gets up to a floor, and I can't remember which floor it was, but she starts, like, looking out because the doors aren't shutting. Like, they're not, doing the timed thing where they shut again. So she's kind of looking out both ways, and she's kind of looking for somebody. You can't really tell, is she seeing anyone? Is anybody there? You don't really know. And then at one point, she does seem to step out. I did watch some conspiracy online groups that said you could see a foot. I didn't really see the said foot.
Like, I didn't see it either. Okay, no, good. I didn't. Yeah, I didn't see any of that. I didn't see the extra shadows. I was looking for all of that stuff.
Me too.
I think there's a lot of people looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then she gets off the elevator, and that is literally the last time she is seen. So we don't really know. And that, I believe, was one of the Cecil floors. Do you remember? I don't have that in my notes.
I don't remember really what unclear floor that was. Yeah.
So people speculate that maybe she was high, maybe she was under medicating because she was prescribed Wellbutrin, lamicidol, lamictal, that's it, sorry, Seroquel, and Effexor. And she was definitely under medicated when they did her autopsy. So they didn't find any
Well,
other illicit drugs.
but they did find her pills were still in her room. Like she had stopped
Yes.
taking them. But
Yes.
I wanted to say too, was it 15 or 18 days that she was actually missing?
I think it was a full 19 days until she
Okay.
was found.
Okay. Because I think they had to go in and do a search, and they were saying that
Yes.
there were 70 rooms, over 600 closets. And then when they start talking, well, they wanted to know all the details of the staff and when they were coming and going, when they were clocking in and out. And then she's like, oh my gosh, like you think she might have left in a dumpster? Like it didn't even occur to the manager at that time. And honestly, this was a place where they like death happened a lot there.
Yes.
So people go missing there, and sometimes they do it on purpose. And this wasn't a hotel that checked your background. This is a place where people could, like, hide out in, because Ramirez, that was his house.
Yes.
When all of that happened, which we can get into later, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I have that.
Okay, go ahead.
And also, they called 911 at least every day, 1 to 3 times. So this was a common occurrence of kind of illicit things going on. Now, that doesn't mean that it was the stay on Main side. It just means
it's just the hotel in general.
Building. Yes, this whole
the
building.
Black Dahlia. This is the last place she was seen as well. Yes.
Yes. So it has this sordid history, and that's one of the other things about this case. But just kind of going back to her, people were like, she looks psychotic. She was, a lot of
she did. She looked like she was like
she did
either
paranoid.
Frantic or it looked like a lot of different things.
But then the online sleuths started looking through the video, and they realized, hey, wait, the time stamp on this doesn't line up, and there seems to be a gap. Now, the hotel says, no, the time stamp was wrong from the beginning. And online sleuths are like, yeah, but there's like a whole minute missing. And they're like, no, it was just bad equipment. We just didn't have good equipment. So there's all this speculation about, okay, was this tampered with? Did somebody see something on this and get rid of the video evidence? We really, really don't know. And rumors also, have been started about the autopsy report. And some say that the rape kit results were never processed. Others say that the fingernail kit was never processed on her. And I haven't even told you about how she was found yet.
Yeah.
So eventually, on the 19th of February, she was eventually found. Now, by the way, as you said, they had searched this whole hotel. They had looked everywhere. They could not find her. And now, if you can only imagine, you're staying in LA, you've never been there before. They actually had a interview with a couple, and I think they were from Australia. They were visiting LA for the first time, and they decided to stay at the Stay on Main. And they weren't going to spend much time there. The rooms were not real nice inside. The hotel,
they had no idea. They were like, this is cheap. Let's stay there.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh my God. As soon as they said, when they got into the elevator, they were like, oh gosh.
Yeah. And then they got up to the rooms, and the rooms were not any better. And they said that the
floors
were
sticky.
Yes. The water that was coming out of the faucets smelled bad. It was brown. Some people said it was black. Some said it tasted weird. People started complaining. Now, this water actually went to many rooms. I think it was 60 rooms. It went to a kitchen, and it went to a coffee shop. Okay. This will come into play because people started complaining about this. And that is what finally sent a maintenance man up to the rooftop, which is a bit scary to me because I didn't know we're getting our water from rooftop tubs of water. Okay.
Probably, this is an old hotel. Like, they probably just hadn't upgraded
it, right? Is this
rainwater?
Like, what's going on here?
And how did
It's
those
disturbing.
tubs like fill the whole hotel? It seems
Yeah,
like it goes really quick.
so there's
It's
4 giant tubs up there. And so he goes up to investigate and figure out why the water is miscolored, why it smells. And first of all, to get up there, the roof doors are locked and you need a key code and a passcode, or a key and a passcode to get in. But he goes ahead and, gets in there or whatever. Now, side note, by the way, you can go down a floor and out the fire escape, even down a couple floors, and go up the fire escape. So you can get to the roof. But this is going to be important because when he goes out onto the roof, he finds that he goes to the water tanks. Now, when you get to the roof, then you have to climb up the cinder block onto the cinder block platform where the water tanks are then sitting even higher than the roof. So he gets up there, he gets a ladder, and he leans the ladder onto this water tank, and he sees this water tank lid is open. He looks in and he finds her floating body, which I can't imagine. I mean, must have just been disgusting and gross.
Well, and like, had they not put that together?
No, they
Like,
had not.
she's been missing. Water's tasting weird. They didn't.
Well, I think it was not together. Like
Okay.
the conversations weren't happening together. It happened so gradually that all of a sudden they had a problem with their water. 19 days later, they're like, well, this is weird. I think as
Melissa, if we owned the hotel and you and I were like, this girl's been missing like 18 days. And I was like, hey, I just got a call that the water's black. When you would look at me and we'd be like, oh shit. Somebody's in the
you
tank.
and I would look like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure everybody else was or would.
Like, do you remember, like, and maybe you're getting to this, but they had the tracker dogs in there and it stopped at that window?
Yes, go ahead and tell that.
So I think they brought the dogs in and it went to that window that has the fire escape that goes up to the roof. I think that's how she got in there, because everyone was saying, no, like an employee must have taken her up there or raped her and threw her in the water tank or, something where like she leaves that elevator. I think she goes left. I don't even know, maybe right.
Yeah.
Goes to that window and goes out.
And then climbs up.
I think she did.
And the weird part about that I could never get a complete understanding of is then how did she get up to the water tank? It said she climbed up the water tank, but it didn't sound like there was. I look from the picture like maybe there's a ladder in between the water tanks. So there's 4 tanks. If you guys can imagine the top of there's 4 tanks sitting and they're very tight together. There might've been a ladder in the middle, but the maintenance guys didn't use that ladder. They used a separate ladder that they would lean along the tanks, but that ladder was not on the tanks. So how did she climb up there?
We are not even talking about a sane person at this point.
Yes.
She goes out the window. She goes up it's the ladder is like on the side. Like, I don't know if you can see this picture where I'm trying to like show.
up above your head.
It's like, it's exposed. Like you're not even in like a tube, right? So you're already not in your right mind. You go up this thing, you climb up and over the top of the thing. Like, you're like, oh, I'll go to the water tower. Like, you're not even thinking in your right mind. Like, and if they're close enough, you can like shimmy up. I don't know exactly how she got up there, because it's 8 foot by 4 feet. So it's 8 feet tall.
Yes.
Is that right? And then 4
feet wide. But the hatch is quite a bit smaller.
It is. So I think that was another thing that people were talking about, like the sleuth people, is like the whole lid itself is like this really heavy thing. How did she get it off and put it back on? It wasn't. It was left open, and it was like the smaller hatch on top of the big hatch.
Well, yes, it was open when they found her.
Exactly.
So clearly she had gone smaller hatch open.
Yes.
And she could fit through that. Now,
and it wasn't closed. Nobody didn't close her in there. I think she jumped in there and.
Because there was speculation, how would she have closed that on herself? Like, that's impossible, which it would have been unless the water was super high, which it wasn't, and she was floating and she'd pull it down. But the hatch was open, but they did actually cut open the water tub, the
tank to get her out, because the firemen and the rescue, and they couldn't get their equipment in there in that smaller hatch. So they actually did cut it open and do all that to get it out. Now,
with her body, you can imagine the state it was in. It was extremely swollen. It was bloated. The autopsy showed that she had subcutaneous pooling of the blood in her anal area, and her rectum was prolapsed. Now, some speculated, okay, she'd been sexually abused. Others say, no, that really doesn't mean that. It really could have been part of the bloating and the body's decomposition. But one of the weird things, her phone was never found. Now, I will also say to you that her phone could have been dropped from the roof. Her phone could have been thrown from the roof, like lots of other options. And in Skid Row,
She's in a cheap hotel. Like,
yeah,
somebody could have just taken it.
Yeah,
and they're
she
not
could
going
have
to
dropped
admit
it on
to
the
it once they
hallway.
realize what happened.
Yeah. But she was in a pretty bad state when they did find her. The coroner's report said that she was found naked in clothing very similar to the clothing that we see on her in the elevator, but the clothing was now floating in the water, so it was not actually on her, which I can see her taking it off because it's weighing her down. Now she's starting to panic. But it had also a sand-like particulate on it, which I didn't ever really hear an explanation for. Did you?
No, I didn't hear that one.
Okay.
Well, and like it was January is cold, and they say like when you
Yeah.
get hypothermia, you get hot.
Yes.
So maybe as she's trying to like tread water, she starts taking off her clothes because she's so hot. Maybe. I mean, I don't know why she would take off her clothes in there.
But I also think you'd start to panic. Like, no one's going to find you. How do you get out of that? There's no internal ladder inside that thing. Which
and it was
brings me to my
8
whole
feet.
next
She
thing.
couldn't even get to the top. Like, I
Yeah.
think she didn't. It was, and even because she wasn't thinking rationally. Even
Yeah.
when she's drowning, she's not thinking rationally. Like, she's probably not thinking ahead, right? Like to like, oh, what do I need to do next? Like, I mean, that would be a terrible drowning.
The coroner's report also says there was no evidence of physical trauma or sexual assault, even though those couple things that we said were wrong with her. And they said that there was no markings of suicide. Her watch and her room key were found with her. So she did have her watch, she did have her room key. But there's still a lot of speculation on how did she get into the water tank? Did she go out that window? Did somebody take her? Did somebody do something to her? Did somebody kill her and then put her in there? And I never read anything that said she died of drowning. That was never told to me. So there's a lot of questions on that. And that poor maintenance worker, I'm sure that he was just devastated. But where you kind of went into this, there's also a lot of speculation about the history of the hotel. And in addition to Lamb's death in the hotel, it's been plagued with a lot of unfortunate occurrences. It was home to Richard the Night Stalker Ramirez. It was also home to Austrian serial killer Jack Unterweger. And other people then went on to speculate that there were similarities between Lamb's death and the movie in 2002, Darkwater.
Yeah.
And people, I don't know. I think people get
there were so many, like, I didn't see that. I haven't seen it. I wanted to after I saw that, but the different similarities when they're just telling you in the trailer, even wasn't like, even what she was wearing was similar. And I mean, there were so many things, but the movie was made years before.
Correct.
Yeah. It was even in a water tank on top of a hotel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was dripping though, but doesn't matter. The water thing is just pretty disgusting and gross. And it makes me not want to use water at a hotel because where the hell is the water coming from? I actually found a list on Wikipedia of 19 people that have died or had violent crimes at the Cecil Hotel. And several of them were just people committing suicide, jumping off the building, poisoning themselves inside the building. Like, really, really tragic stuff. So there's all this sort of strange uh, conspiracy theories about her disappearance. And then her parents sued the hotel and basically said, look, you didn't take the necessary steps. Now that was thrown out and of court. That didn't end up getting in them anywhere, but they were really upset because they didn't feel like she was being protected at the hotel. So what are your thoughts about this case?
Well, I think I mean, that whole hotel has to have some really negative energy in there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of them were like, okay, let's just say she did it all herself, right? But could she
Mm-hmm.
have been possessed by an evil spirit with roaming the
Right.
walls of like the hotel? And because that manager, and are you talking about are you getting this from the
Watch the
documentary on
documentary.
Netflix?
I did watch the documentary, but I
Okay.
also did online research for this. But I watched the documentary like months ago,
Yeah.
and so I didn't rewatch it for
Because
our discussion.
the manager there, she was a manager, I think from 2010 to 2020. It was 10 years. And I could be
Yeah,
wrong with those dates. She had 70 deaths in that hotel in those
yeah,
10 years. I mean, that's a lot in
yeah,
10 years. So she said, like, I think was like within their first 3 days of working there, she had her first, and she's like, oh my God, this is terrible.
yeah.
Can't believe it. And then she realized it's just a normal thing for it to happen. I
Yes,
think that, I think she stopped taking her medicine
yeah,
because I've known some bipolar people and I know that they see things that aren't there. They can. I
yeah,
mean, it just depends on where they are. She stopped taking her medicine. I think she started acting out and weird with the people in her room, the hostile people.
yeah,
They kick her out. She's still not taking her medicine, and I
yeah.
think she then like probably didn't sleep because they were and that was the person that I know whenever she didn't sleep, it was when it would trigger. I mean, she didn't sleep for days and it just like it was full blown bad, like hallucinating, saying really odd things. But this is another weird thing. I remember her telling me like she went to the mall, and this was when she's
Who are you
fully,
talking about?
no, I can't tell you. But
Oh,
it's
okay,
a very reliable source. But she would
okay.
tell
So
me
this
like
is a friend
after,
of yours
yes,
that has bipolar. Okay,
yes,
okay,
it is. It's a, yeah.
okay,
And
okay.
so she said that while she was really, really sick, or I guess
Yes.
is what you call it, sick, when she was in her, I don't even know what you call it, but she was,
Episode.
yes, her episode. She went to the mom and she could look at people and she would know if they were good or bad because some of the faces would just be not there. They would be just like these dark gray, like nothing, no and she would just know by walking down the hall if they were like really bad people or really if they were okay people, or they would smile and it'd be like "Ugh." And so I could see that maybe she thought she was being followed. Like what if during that time you are like, and this is gonna, then I'm going kind of crazy, right, with these
Yeah.
different dimensions, right? What if they're
Yes.
crossing over and you're seeing stuff that is there but we don't normally see it? So
Right.
she's maybe, because she's in this altered state, she's able to see some of that negative activity within the hotel.
So what you're saying is, what if she was seeing ghosts and
What if
spirits?
she was seeing something negative within the building because she's in an altered state because of her bipolar?
It's a good question. What if the bipolar wiring is actually allowing them to see another
So
dimension?
that's what I think about like people with mental illness when they're talking to somebody. We don't see it, but could they actually be talking to
Be
something
talking
like
to
that's
somebody.
there? We
Yeah.
just can't see it. Like,
Right.
I mean, because they'll be
And we're
like, they're
like,
very
oh no,
adamant and
take
like,
this medication. Yeah, take this
yes,
medication. Turn that off. Yeah.
right, turn it
Yeah, I
off
don't
when it's
know.
still
That's
there.
beyond my recollection. You sent me a TikTok of a girl who, what did she say? She says she's read all of the, how did she say that?
I'm not sure
You
which
have to
one
pull
you.
it.
I sent you one recently about the Texas,
Here it is.
El Paso, Texas.
Yeah, the CIA document on reality
Oh yeah,
shifting.
yeah.
It is, what is her name?
I thought she said it in a
Shifty
pretty.
Lee.
I thought it was or she explained it in an easy way.
Yes, she basically said she took pieces of paper and she drew a stick figure on one of the pieces of paper in the middle of the stack. And she basically said, this is us. We're very two-dimensional. We're on one piece of paper. But in the stack, if I take a Sharpie and I put my Sharpie onto like your brain, and the ink dry or goes into the other pages,
it bleeds into the other side.
Paradigm shifting is that you've now entered into another paradigm. That's a little freaky.
Or if
for
the
me.
Sharpie was on a different
like,
piece of paper bleeding into ours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
which
maybe with enough mental illness, you could see, I don't know. I just, so like in that video, it very much looks like she's hiding from somebody. In her reality, she probably is. If you're hiding from somebody, why push every single button, including the button that keeps the doors open? And so they're all like, all those conspiracy people, they're like, why is the door not closing? Well, because you pushed the stupid button. Like, what do you think it happened? And like, you know, and like the whole thing with the heel or whether the shoe, they thought that was somebody else's. I'm like, that's her foot. Like, I didn't really think a lot of what they said. I saw what they were looking at, but it just looked like a part of her. It didn't look like somebody else. And I do think there's more than one elevator. I think they're side by side. I think there's two side by side. And so I think they were like,
but they go to the same floors?
I think so. And I could be wrong about that too. When I saw a video, I think I saw these guys on YouTube that went to the hotel because, would you go stay at this hotel?
No.
So I would go to the hotel. I would rent a room, but I wouldn't stay the night there. I'd go up and visit.
Or you'd stay awake.
No, I don't even think I would do that. Like late at night, I think that would be really creepy, but I could go during the day and check it out, which is what they did. And it looked like there was two.
You have actually stayed the night in a creepy, what you thought was going to be a haunted hotel.
Okay. But I did, but it wasn't next to Skid Row. And it wasn't full of like people that want to stay off the grid because of either they're hiding because they're wanted or they're, you know,
criminal past.
Ramirez, people that are like probably sex offenders and all of that. That would freak me out. But I would go check out the hotel. I think it'd be
Would
really
you go and stay with your husband?
No, he wouldn't go there anyway. No.
I know he wouldn't.
He didn't even stay at the haunted hotel with me.
But if he would you?
No, because I think he would try to protect me and then he would get hurt. And I wouldn't want that for him either.
Okay. What if you had an attack dog?
What if I wouldn't want my dog hurt? No, I don't think so. Like if I had an armed guard at my door, if they like,
but you wouldn't want the armed guard to scare away the potential ghosts or spirits that would come in.
I think there's lots of haunted places out there that aren't full of criminal activity. I could find lots of other haunted places to go, but
ladies and gentlemen, I think we have found your line finally. This is your line.
No,
your line is criminal activity.
I've always told you mental illness scares me because people that are irrational. Scary.
Yes.
You know, because they're not even
you can't reason with it. Yeah, you can't reason with it.
Do you think she did it all on her own? You don't think there's like this weird conspiracy?
I don't think there's a conspiracy. I don't. I
think it's super unfortunate. I think it just.
I don't think that there's enough information. Yeah, I don't think there's enough information to say she did. I had some questions that, like, everybody was saying, well, maintenance workers put a separate, ladder up. Well, okay, so, but there was a ladder because I could see one, but they never said there wasn't a ladder, but they never said there was a ladder. They just said she climbed up it. Well, could she just like Spider-Man up this thing? Like, I had some questions like that.
And honestly, like it was 8 feet tall, like, right? And this thing was on cinder blocks. All she really needed is like 2 or 3 feet of step to get up there, where he's like, I'm going to make it easy. I'm going to put up a ladder. Yeah. He's not spider monkeying up the side of it like she probably did. Like she wasn't thinking I need a ladder.
She's small. So she would have to, although, to be honest, if she's small, she probably could have waddled between the two tanks. That's actually probably a good idea. She could have waddled, like put a foot on one tank, a foot on the other tank, and she could have gotten that. Although at the top, then she would have had to like Spider-Man over, but I could see that happening. Maybe. Yeah, especially if there's grooves. See, I don't know the tanks. Like I don't, and you can kind of see the tanks in the picture, but it looks like there's kind of smooth, but it looks like there's ladders on them, like built-in ladders, which
Yeah, I'm gonna look at the picture a little bit
apparently
better.
maintenance didn't use, but because they specifically said they didn't use those, but the hatch was definitely open. Yeah, I think unfortunately that she probably did something to herself, but I don't think she did it intentionally. I think she had
No.
every intention of, even though she had talked about suicide, I don't think she had intentions of killing herself. I think
No, I
she
don't think. I think it
just,
was an accident. I think she went off her meds. I
yeah,
think she was paranoid. I think she hid on her own, was hiding
yeah,
from somebody or something, and then that wasn't actually there. I don't
yeah,
think.
I do too. I do too.
I don't know. It's just really.
It's
Oh,
very sad.
but did you see? Oh my gosh! At the end of that documentary, they talked about how there was an illness that went ripping through Skid Row.
No, I don't
It-
remember that.
Okay, I'm going to probably get some of this wrong, so I apologize. But it was at the very end of that documentary. Or maybe I saw it online, but you'll have to look it up. It was, I think, an illness went through Skid Row, and that the drug that they were treating these people with was like Elisa. That was the name
Oh,
of it.
yes.
Yeah,
I do remember that. Okay, that's one of the other conspiracies.
right. Because it got all. It's
Yes.
like, how? What are the chances that she goes missing,
Yes.
and then the drug that they're treating these people, wasn't it the Skid Row people that
Yes.
were sick? Okay,
I I I want to say, was it
I'm gonna look that up really quick.
Yes, there was something about, there's a lot of conspiracies about that, or about her disappearance, and how it, like, eerily similar to this and eerily similar to that, and there's this movie, and then there was this other movie made by her brother, and a lot of things that I sort of didn't go down the rabbit hole of researching and everything. But you're right, there was something about that, and I don't
Yeah.
exactly remember that.
So Elisa is a test for tuberculosis.
Yes.
And I guess maybe they were testing the people, or there was something, and it's spelled exactly the same, just her last name's first on
And
it,
it's from Canada. Was it
If
from
there was something
Canada?
really weird, like, I mean, what is
Yes.
that? What is that all about?
Yes.
That was
I
weird.
agree. I agree.
But
That
okay,
was weird.
it's still going to be weird if she was murdered,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Regardless if
Yes.
she did it herself or she was murdered or whatever. It was weird
Well, and if
that
she was
drug was.
murdered, there's a couple things. If she was murdered, there would have been signs on her body that she was murdered before she was put in there. If she was just put in there by somebody being an asshole and like, oh, she's going to drown in there, I don't exactly know what the purpose was. I guess there's no clues, no signs that she was murdered. Does that
Yeah, I
make
think
sense?
there would probably be more information out there, and people seeing them, like if she actually was drug out by some guy, or you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like we would
Yeah.
have had some more sightings or this, weird behavior by another employee or person, or I don't think, I think it was
Well, and
just
maybe
very
we wouldn't have,
unfortunate.
but we would have seen something on her body, like her nails would have been broken off, like she was clawing at someone, or
Mm.
she'd have, a wound of some kind because she was trying to stop him from dragging her up there,
You're right.
or like just something, even like not going in the hole, she would have been trying to like, she would
Yeah.
have gotten bruised trying to hold herself from going through the hatch. I don't know. It just didn't seem like there was anything on her body even.
And honestly, like
So
those, you saw that the interview with that couple that went in, right? And they were like, "Oh God, this
oh
place
yeah.
is like creepy." Well, for Elisa Lamb to stay there on her
Yeah.
own, she couldn't have been there
Yes.
in her right mind,
Oh
right?
gosh,
First of
right?
all, you're by yourself. You have to be off your meds,
Yeah.
and then you have to be a
Yeah.
little crazy, and then
And you're just like leeching around, like ooh, around that hotel. I'd be like, which is what those people said. They were like, we came in, we slept, we left. Like we were gone all day long. We were like, we want to be
they
here
just wanted
as
a cheap place
minimally as
to
possible.
stay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it
Which
was, I mean,
I don't know. that's sketch too. I would have
Well, and
checked
then
right
when
on out of
Richard
there.
Ramirez stayed there, he paid $14 a night.
Ugh,
That's super
gross.
cheap. He lived there during that whole thing.
Gross.
That's
Gross.
scary. That's a
That
scary
is
hotel.
scary.
And which was
Yeah.
really sad is it used to be something really, really cool, which is kind of like all of
Yeah.
our downtown Portland right now.
Yeah.
It
I
used to
know.
be
Oh
really,
my
really
gosh.
cool. And have you been down there?
I just went down there last week. It
Yeah,
was
I went there
shocking.
recently, and is it weird that like it's like the park blocks that have the old courthouse,
Yeah.
from the waterfront all the way up, but
Yeah.
the businesses on each side of that are like
Uh-huh.
untouched. It's just like that road that goes all the way up, like that whole center part of downtown. It's like probably a 3 or
Yes.
4 blocks of just mayhem, and then either side of it,
Yes.
like there's
The
glass in the
signs.
windows where everything else is
Yeah.
boarded up. It's like
Yes.
like, and what was even weirder is like it didn't even go all the way to Burnside. It was like only
No.
this like one certain area, like this 4 blocks of like
Well, that's what
boarded
everybody,
up.
everybody talks about. Oh, sorry about Portland. It's like, why? It's really a concentrated, 4 block area around the Justice Center, around the federal courthouse, that was really the problem. But I will tell you, a lot of the businesses still have all that plywood and stuff up,
Mhm.
even inside Pioneer Place, which is kind of sad. And I'm ready for that to all come down. I do hope that some of the pieces of art that were painted on the plywood will be saved and maybe memorialized at some point. I think that they tell a story. They tell a
Mhm.
story about a time in, our in our lives that people retaliated and said, this isn't okay anymore. And I'm not saying it was right, because there's a lot of people just down there just to break shit. But that wasn't the whole story. That's not the end all. I don't think. And like I've told many people, the normal rioters left at 9 or 10, and then that's when the people who wanted to break stuff showed up. So that's the unfortunate part. But
Yeah, very, very sad.
yeah. Yeah, very sad. It is. And we have a lot of homeless, a lot of mental illness in our town, as do, I think, all of the major towns that I'm hearing about. I haven't experienced it and when. I mean, I've seen it in Seattle. I've seen it down in Roseburg, even Medford, in Oregon. But and then I hear San Francisco's really bad with homeless. So we're not treating our mentally ill very good. For sure, there's a problem, and we need to treat them better, and we need to get them help. And I don't know what that means. I don't know how that is, but the stigma, first of all, has to be removed for people that have mental illness to say, hey, I need to get help. And it's okay. A lot of people have it. Yeah.
Some people choose to live that way, though.
It's
I'm not
true.
saying
It's
I'm not
true.
saying everybody, but I'm just saying that
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's mental or drugs. It could be a lot of different things, but
Yep.
there's a lot happening.
Self-medicating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's even, down to people that I know that have ADHD that say, I don't like who I am when I'm on those medications. They
Yeah.
flatten me. And
Hmm.
so they like that euphoric feeling that they have when they're not on the drug. Now, do they like the flat feeling that they have on the opposite side? Probably not. The depression side, no, but they
Right.
really miss when they're flat and just across the board the same. They really miss that exciting,
They do, but they
euphoric.
also don't realize their actions and how they affect other people. Like I
Yes,
don't think they're
correct,
not all there to understand the big picture of it. And that's what's
correct.
hard. Like, I don't know. This is a
As
whole
a
new
person
conversation.
that's not dealing with it, yes,
Yeah.
it is. It is a
It's a
whole
big
other
one. It's
conversation.
just hard. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that I'm not smart enough to be one of those people that make all those decisions on, like, I could not be Kate Brown. Like, there's
Oh
no way.
gosh, no,
No, I wouldn't
no,
want her job. Like,
no.
anyway.
She's damned if she does and damned if she doesn't. She's being
Yes.
very conservative, and if she wasn't conservative, there'd be people
Either
janking on
side.
her.
She's
Yeah,
not she's not going to
yeah.
win either way.
Nope, no.
I want people to know how to get a hold of us because,
Okay.
we say our social media and all of that. So my email is salonsluice@yahoo.com. And Melissa, your email is?
Salonsluice@gmail.com.
Yes. She's a
SalonSleuths at Gmail or at yahoo.com.
yes. And also, we'll just recap this. If you want to help us find Floyd Jean Bennett, which we have an earlier episode about, you can go back and find it. She is a woman that went missing in Beaverton, I believe in the late 70s. I believe she's in the backyard of this house. We want to go find her. So we are looking for patrons to contribute to, what is it? A piece of machine? What is this thing? Equipment?
Yes, we need a piece of equipment. We need to figure out what that's called.
We need a company, a guy to come out and do
penetrating
radar.
Yeah, radar. What's under there?
Gosh, they built like this. I wonder if it can go through concrete because they built that new slab I saw in the back. That has to be new. Can it go through that?
Yes.
I mean, I guess we'll have to ask all these questions, but I don't think
they're going to let us dig that up.
No, but let's just see if there's any weird things underneath it to be like, dude, like maybe we could dig from the side and pull it out. We don't have to
tunnel out.
Right. I mean, right? We could do that.
Sure. We can do anything. Anything
I think
is
we should
possible
really
with
find
enough
her.
money.
And then we're going to go look for Alyssa
for
McCran next. But let's find one.
All right.
I think we can find her. She's going to be pretty easy.
Alyssa or Bennett?
No. Yeah, Bennett.
Okay.
Because I really think she's just in the backyard.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. I love it. All right, dear. Well, good talk today. And have an excellent weekend.
Yeah, you too. I'll see you next week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.